Benedikt. He's come from Sydney today to speak to us about Wearable X. So Wearable X is a fashion tech company that designs, develops and produces hardware, software and apparel that creates innovative fashion that addresses specific needs and creates unique experiences. So today Benedikt is going to talk us through some of their research process, kind of from a technical and design. He's been kind of key in developing Natty X, which is the yoga pants which you see on all the pictures on the forum page, which has haptic feedback incorporated into it. But I'll let you talk to that more. So if you'd like to join me in welcoming Benedikt. Thank you.
Thanks, Lizzie, for the kind introduction. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here at SensiLab today. And I'm really happy to talk a bit about what we do at Wearable X and how we try to bring together design and technology. And I would like to start with something that we experience today. Our society is actually screen-based. There are screens, TV screens, laptop screens, the screens of your smartphone, even on your smartwatch. And we use those screens everywhere. Even this presentation is done with a screen. We use it at work, at home, on our way from work home, and even during sports, for example. And that's actually a good example when it gets complicated. Imagine you're on a run and you're wearing your smartwatch and you need to look for your heart rate and you want to know how far you've come. And you have to look on the screen of your smartwatch. And that's actually where screens can get disturbing in our, or can disturb our natural movements. And that's why we at Wearable X try to develop new forms of communication between technology and the user. And one, or the key communication form that we are trying to develop is touch. We're using the power of touch because it's actually one of the most important senses that we have. In fact, touch is the first sense that we're using as a baby. And our tactile system can distinguish between different forms of touch, like light touch, pressure, pain, even temperature. So touch, in general, is a very important sense to make us aware of our surrounding, whereas social intercourse or even sexual intercourse. And that's actually how it all started at Wearable X. And I'm just figuring out that's the wrong presentation. Sorry about that. This is the correct one. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. So that's how it all started at Wearable X, 2013, when Durex did a big PR campaign. It was called Funderwear. Funderwear is vibrating underwear for long-distance relationships. And they did it together with Sneepo, which is the software and innovation company of one of our co-founders, Ben Moyer. And they also did it together with Billy Whitehouse, who was responsible for the design of the underwear. And because of the big success of this campaign, they decided to build a company from that, which was Wearable X. Their next project was to build Navigate. Navigate is a jacket that guides you through a city by connecting to your cell phone and giving you haptic feedback when the user needs to change direction. So you are not disturbed by your screen, and you don't have to look at the screen when you walk through the streets or walk into people. Another project we did was Fan Jersey. Fan Jersey connects the fan to the game and to their favorite player. So for example, when your favorite player scores a goal or is tackled or is fouled, then you get a haptic feedback, for example, on your chest, in real time, what's happening on the pitch. And finally, 2 years ago, we decided to build our own product and bring it to the market. And that was Natty X. Natty X is a pair of smart yoga leggings that has woven-in technology for helping you doing yoga at home, in the park, while you're on travel, so you don't have the need to go to a class and can do yoga wherever and whenever you want. And because of the high awareness that our product raised, we were announced one of the world's most innovative companies in 2017, according to Fast Company, in the health and fitness space. So when you look at the market of yoga pants, it's actually a huge potential because yoga pants have outsold denim for the last 3 years in the US, the UK, and in Australia. And people are not only wearing yoga pants all day, they're also doing more exercise. So you can see during the last decade that a number of members, gym memberships, and the average time spent on exercising has increased significantly. So on the one hand, we have a growing market, and people are wearing the active wear all day. And that's the reason why we designed Nadi X, not as a gadget, but we tried to make the technology invisible, so people don't see the technology, and when they wear it all day, they don't feel it. So let me explain you a bit about the technology. We have 5 what we call electronic modules in the pants. It's at the waist, the knees, and the ankle. And they contain motion sensors and vibration motors. And they are encapsulated so that you don't see them and don't feel them, to make them soft. And you connect to a companion app via Bluetooth, and the sensors inside the pants, they transmit the data to a smart algorithm inside the app, which then uses the data to interpret the sensor values and to detect the yoga pose that you're in. And on the other hand, the app sends commands to the vibration motors so that the pants vibrate according to what's happening in the app. Let me explain a bit further how a motion sensor can detect a posture. You all know this effect from your smartphone. The smartphone is able to distinguish between portrait mode and landscape mode. And it does that by using the acceleration of gravity. So gravity creates an acceleration, a constant acceleration that is directed to the center of the Earth. And when you have a motion sensor that detects acceleration in this direction, it will detect the full acceleration of gravity. But when you hold it like this, it will detect nothing. So when you change the angle of your phone, you will change the sensor values accordingly. And that's exactly what happens in our pants. One challenge that we're facing with developing smart clothing is power supply. If you have electronics in your garments, you will need to have some sort of power supply, preferably a battery. Unfortunately, batteries don't like washing machines. They break under the enormous mechanical forces that you have throughout washing. And that's why we developed a device that you can attach when you want to do your yoga session, and then you can detach when you wear the pants during the day or when you want to wash them. To design this device, what we call the Pulse, we tried to make it as seamless fitting to the body, so we orientated ourselves on round shapes and clothing that fits on the body. So we did some first drawings, how it could look like, did some advanced, more sophisticated renderings with some options, how it could look like. It became black. And then got a final design with a technical drawing for injection molding. And here you can see the final device, how it looks now. I have some with me, so if you're interested, I also have some pans, of course. If you're interested, I can show you how it looks in detail after the talk. Every radio transmitting device needs to go through some sort of certification, depending on which country you want to, and so on and so forth. And so we did some in-house testing prior to certification, so we don't get any surprises. And this is, I brought two examples. This is an example where we tested the ingress protection of the pulse and how dust-proof it is. So So what we actually did was we built a test chamber filled with talc powder, circulated the talc powder for about 40 to 60 minutes, opened the housing again, and looked how much talc powder could be found inside the housing. Another very common test is a drop test. In this case, it's a drop test from 1.5 meters on a metal surface. Of course, we did different heights, different surfaces, if the plastic housing and the electronics inside can withstand those drops. When it comes to the app, we try to make it as simple as possible, but easy to understand. And so we actually designed it that you go through an onboarding first, where it explains how to activate the pulse, how to connect it to the pants. Then it connects via Bluetooth. You can then choose the vibration strength and jump right into a list of yoga poses. You can do all the yoga poses as a flow, or you can do each yoga pose individually. And the poses are set up in a way that there's a step-by-step guidance. And the last step is, in each step, you have visual and audio guidance. And the pants vibrate according to what the audio guidance tells you, so that you draw attention to the parts of the body where you need to focus. The last step, the algorithm comes into play, and where the sensor values are used to detect if you made it into the pose correctly. And to develop this algorithm, we partnered with a company called Focus Motion from the US. They are specialized on sports software and algorithms. And the algorithm actually looks that way that it sits between the app and the hardware. So it works more in the background. And what's special about it is that it's not only counting peaks of movements, like, for example, on push-ups, it detects the peak of the motion sensor, but it also interprets the look of different sensor values, so it can distinguish between different movements. For example, shoulder abductions and bench presses in this case. Or, in our case, yoga poses. So this algorithm is by far more sophisticated and accurate than, for example, a Fitbit algorithm. In terms of production, we partnered with a company called MAS. They're a big supplier of activewear from Sri Lanka, and they're also our investor. And we set up a custom-made production line with this company. So this production line brings together the fabrics and the electronics. That brought some new tasks, like, for example, test devices we had to develop along the different production steps to be able to test and to keep up a high level of quality management. Okay, to sum up the whole project, this is the timeline from when it started with prototyping, goes to user testing, which was actually, so we tested with different yoga teachers, with yoga practitioners. We had to do the data collection, not only to do it on different body shapes, different sizes, and probably to explain that a bit further, to train the algorithm, you record yoga poses and the sensors that you have, and then feed the algorithm with those sensor values, so then it can detect the yoga pose afterwards again. Hardware testing was a big part, just showed the two examples. Setting up the production line, certification, of course, and software development of the firmware and the app. And yeah, since December last year, we are able to ship. So the product can be bought from our website or on Amazon. And yeah, if you want to have a look, download the app, buy the pants, and thank you. Looking forward to your questions. Yeah?
Thanks for that. I'm sorry I was a bit late, but
no worries.
interested to see what you had. The battery unit, how did you decide where to put it on the body? And
Very good question.
You've got user testing. Was there pre-prototype kind of experimentation?
That was part of the user. We worked together with the yoga teachers and the yoga practitioners to find out the best position of the pulse. You can imagine, not sure if you're doing yoga.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, so you need to lie on the floor, you need to bend your knees, straighten your leg. So you have all these different yoga poses. And what we found, the least disturbing place is actually behind the left knee. So that's where you don't really feel it during your yoga session. Yeah, and it actually, we didn't have any complaints so far, so it seems to work out pretty well.
So does it make a local connection with the sensors when you place it on your knee?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have 4 pins
Yeah.
that you connect to the, we call it the host plate, so it's a counterpart where you attach the pulse, and then you have the electrical connection to the sensors. So if you, let me quickly go back. Oh, that's too far. Where is it? Huh? Yeah. So here you can see the electronic modules that contain the vibration motors and the motion sensors. And they are all connected via stretchable electronic wires. So when you connect the pulse on the left knee, it sets up the bus that connects all the electronic modules with each other.
And that's okay washing them, because I imagine if there are copper connections or something, detergent in the washing machine.
Yeah. So it took us a while and some efforts to make it, but we give a warranty of 25 washes, which is actually the industry standard. So when you buy a conventional yoga leggings,
Yeah.
pair of yoga leggings, you will also have a warranty of 25 washes. So we are able to fulfill the industry standard on that. You should use the hand wash program, but basically you can put it in the washing machine.
Are you looking at applications of this outside of sports ones? So, I mean, I work with people who are blind and low vision, and so obviously you started by describing about how you wanted to take people away from screens, so you didn't want vision to be part of it. This obviously seems like a natural fit. Are you looking at this technology or these approaches in any other contexts outside of?
Yes, yes. The funny thing is, when I talk to people about this technology and what it's capable of doing, everybody comes up with a different application. And for us, we want to focus on yoga for this year. And then next year and the years after, we're definitely looking into other applications. We wanted to do it right for one application first and then see what's next. Yeah, definitely.
Question. So just interested in the way that you brought it to market. So you mentioned that you had a lot of partners that you worked with. How do you go about that process? So I imagine, like you showed the timeline, you had an early prototyping and things. Were you thinking about we need to partner with someone who's an expert in motion detection algorithms from the beginning, or come to that point and say this is beyond our internal capability, we need to find someone with expertise? Just really curious.
I would say the least one, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a very talented prototyping engineer who did the prototype, the first PCB designs, the whole concept at first. And then when it came to making the prototype more mature and actually making it a product, that's where we brought in the expertise of experts. Yeah, especially the algorithm. That's actually quite a long-term relationship already. And yeah, so we developed this algorithm together, and it's actually working out pretty well, yeah.
So I guess in our lab we build a lot of prototypes, but we don't really go to the product stage yet. So I'm curious as to where you sort of think the vision of effort lies. So is it getting the prototype the easy bit, and then actually getting it to a marketable product? Is that significantly more difficult, or is it just equally as difficult, or how would you rate it?
That's a tricky question. Both has different challenges to overcome. I mean, the prototyping, you need to have the idea, and you need to have a working prototype so you can, for example, convince investors that they help you to bring it to the market. And then when you have overcome this step, then you need to think about challenges like quality management. So last July and August, I spent most of my time on building test jigs for testing the quality of the product at different production steps, which are prototypes on themselves. And then you go through the different evaluation phases, test phases. So it's called EVT, DVT, and PVT. Evaluation, validation, test phase, development, validation, test phase, and production validation, test phase. And after DVT, you make a pencils down approach. So you say, okay, that's our final design. We don't change anything anymore because that's the point where you go to certification. And at PVT, you test the product. So you get, it's not samples anymore, it's the actual product that you're testing. And so the maturity of the product evolves over those three testing phases. And you're not allowed to do any mistakes the further you come, because then it gets more expensive, of course. So that's a different type of challenge, I would say. Prototyping is more, the challenge is in getting the concept right from the beginning, and then you have to have a long breath to make it to the product, I would say.
So did you do a lot of market testing in the early stages? Like,
yes.
So people really wanted vibrating pants? Or
let me give you an example. It's those vibrations. In my slide, I said touch is a language, and that's actually very true, because when we designed the app in its first version, we understood the vibrations. It was like a new language people had to learn. And we had a big turn in the development of the app last year. So we threw the whole concept of the app out the window and started again to bring it to the stage where it is now. Just because people were not understanding the vibrations. Regarding the joy people feel with vibrations, it's very interesting when they wear the pants for the first time and they feel the vibrations for the first time. You can always see a smile. It's really interesting. Yeah, so I guess it's, and we have some yoga teachers who use it regularly, and they say it's so convenient and it draws your attention to where you have to focus. So they, actually yoga teachers, they use it as well, not only beginners.
Who was the sports example with? Who was that a partnership with? Like the football jersey?
The fan jersey, we did several versions. We started here in Australia, was called Allied Shirt, together with Foxtel, and I think it was for AFL, and then we did one for American football. I think it was in 2016, together with Bud Light for the Super Bowl. And the last version was the soccer version that we did for the European Championship in 2016. Yeah.
Is that continuing on in any other way?
Yeah,
Like
we're still,
marketing
no,
events?
it's still in our mind, and we definitely want to do something on that end. But the focus is definitely on the yoga pants.
So software-wise, is the content like regularly updated, or like is there ways for you to, like, you know what I mean, the yoga poses? Because I assume it's a training another set on another pose. Like how do you manage that side?
Yeah, we're working on that as well. At the moment, we have 30 poses that are trained for the algorithm, and we're planning to extend that list pretty soon with more poses. And what we're also planning to do is not only extending to more poses, but also being able to give more accurate, to train the algorithm with more accurate data. From that, being able to give precise correction. So at the moment, the algorithm is able to detect if you're in the pose or if you're not, but it doesn't know why you're not in the pose. In the not so far future, we have more data. We will also be able to detect why you're not in the pose and what mistake you're doing, which is a bit tricky because yoga is tricky about doing something wrong or right, but we're working on that as well.
So in this current phase where you say you're not in the pose and you are, that's obviously different for if you're a beginner or you know, super regular. So do you train different models?
Yes.
So
Yes.
Okay, so if I pick a beginner one, it'll be more forgiving in my...
Yes. Yeah, it's some kind of tolerance that we've trained the algorithm with. And from the app, we're using a server called Contentful, which is actually pretty convenient because you can change the content and it's pushed into the app, and you don't have to download an update on the App Store. So the app checks Contentful for updated content, and then it immediately is in the app. And that's...
One last one. For the motion sensor, is it just accelerometer or do you have
Yes.
gyros in there?
No.
Just accelerometer.
Yeah. Gyros would be more accurate, of course, but it's also a question of costs, and we don't really need it at the moment.
So you want to do five.
Yeah.
Is the algorithm going to be able to learn from the individual? So if you said, okay, I'm a beginner, I'm going to start, and so it's more forgiving in terms of tolerances, and would it be able to learn that you're getting better?
No.
And be pickier than you?
No, because we decided to stay in control of the parameters of the training. When you collect the data from the users and you're not standing next to them, the data is probably corrupted. So we did it on our own conditions where we know, okay, this is a wrong pose, this is a right pose, and the data is fine. That takes, of course, time, but it's more accurate for us.
If everyone can
I also have some of the pens with me if you want to. Yeah.
But if we can all just thank Benedikt for his
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Benedikt, are you based in Australia?
In Sydney, yeah.
So you've probably seen the active wear video.
Sorry?
The active wear video.
I've totally seen it, yeah.
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 An initiation into Australia,
right.
isn't it?
Yeah.